needs to see the distance. Yeah. Just to understand who's in the room, developers, raise your hands. Okay. Who's tried VR? Who uses VR once a week? Okay. I've been writing a lot about virtual reality for about 4 years now for VentureBeat, as I was just mentioned. VentureBeat is a Silicon Valley tech blog. You know, in the last 4 years, there's been a lot of chaotic times, a lot of dead startups that just weren't timed correctly. And they'll just repeat themselves with the same models until the industry finds its legs. And what does that mean? Is this a consumer market? Will it actually last? Is there people who are actually using these VR headsets? Is it collecting dust? You know, the iPod of the VR headsets, the Oculus Quest, that's what I call it. It has arrived since May, and it's selling out pretty well, but only about, I think, 400,000, 500,000 of it is sold. That's not a market. However, the business use cases, the serious use cases, the educational, healthcare use cases, those are the ones that are going to be driving this market, and those are the ones that are not hype-based whatsoever. And if you know, if you read my articles dating from 2015, 2016, you can probably see that evolution. And it took the headset manufacturers like Oculus and HTC quite some time to figure it out. It was pretty much written on the walls. But it takes sometimes the big players, which are elephants, a lot of effort to steer those giant vehicles in the right direction. One of the right directions that we found after spending a year developing what we call biometric algorithms, or a new analytical approach that leverages neuroscience to effectively map emotions in VR and AR based on your body language. Anyways, we were doing R&D for a long time and effectively decided in May to take that analytical IP and throw it into a use case that we think is not just nice to have, but critical, can play a critical part for an industry or a market that really needs VR to come in and save the day. And that's what we've done. We're using VR and artificial intelligence to some degree, machine learning mostly, to take brain training to the next level. So what is this market? In about 10 years, in the markets like the US, the elderly will outnumber children for the first time in history. The baby boomers in the US, for example, they're considered the wealthiest segment of the population. They're all going to be over 65 by 2030. That means there's going to be a huge demand for longevity tech. You know, people are living longer, and dementia is no joke. It can hit as early as 45 years of age, and there's a lot of evidence mounting that games are very, very effective, not just tools. We're even seeing a burgeoning new industry called digiceuticals, you know, digital medicine. We're finding out that VR can effectively reduce and dampen pain receptors. Like, what? It means if I put myself in a VR simulation, my reality somehow affects the rest of my senses and dampens the physical body's ailments. So FDA has just approved, like, I think a few million in researching that, because it's already like, that is not hype, that is huge. Cedars-Sinai had just received $100 million from Disney for applications like that for children, pain, and so on. But anyways, the aging population is happening. It's going to be a huge, not a crisis, but it's going to be a huge change in terms of demographics globally. Places like Singapore and Japan, they're going to be like so elderly. It's not even like, it's just not even funny. It's like, you know, we don't have systems in place for figuring out how to deal with the change that's going to be taking place. And so that's one of the reasons that cognitive assessment and training as a technology has been kind of blossoming in the last 10 years, is because the low-hanging fruit and the main driver is the aging population, the elderly. The second is, we as people are becoming more and more conscious for the need of mental fitness, mental hygiene. We know that we have to brush our teeth, We know we need to go exercise. We know we need to eat healthy. I think in about 10, 15 years, brain training games and these types of things will be a very normal, regular hygiene part of your day. And all that is possible because technology has made it accessible through your smartphone, with your tablet. Raise your hand if you know Lumosity or Peak or Brain HQ, or really, no one knows? I guess in Europe it's not as popular, but Lumosity is an app that has 85 million members worldwide. It offers a series of games that are designed to make you better, better at concentrating and so on. The only problem with these 2D screen-based apps is that they have failed to provide conclusive evidence that they actually work. Lumosity was fined $2 million a few years ago for misleading marketing claims. And that makes sense to the neuroscience community. The neuroscience community goes, okay, yes, if you're twiddling with your thumbs and your fingers on a screen playing a game, it might have some kind of effect, but whether that effect is general global cognitive enhancement that actually is lasting, there's no evidence for that. You might get better at Sudoku if you play Sudoku all the time, but will that make you better at remembering your grocery list or any type of cognitive function? And what we're seeing here, and what I do a lot of research in, understanding better, is VR impacts multiple cognitive systems in parallel: emotional, behavioral, experiential learning has multiple learning systems impacted, and that's key in terms of what the neuroscience community says. They say that cognition is inherently embodied. You cannot exclude the physical body from an experience and have, there's a certain rate of forgetting. There's a certain level of, there's a pyramid. I should have put it in this presentation, but there's a pyramid of the more senses and things you put into, more of you involve into an experience, the more you will remember, the more likely it will actually impact your memory systems in a way that you'll act based on that knowledge or act based on that experience. And so that's the opportunity, clearly enough. VR it incorporates the body inherently. I mean, you can't not. We haven't even begun to understand what it even means to be in a VR experience. I think any children under 7 years old, if you put them in VR, you should be probably fined or arrested. We don't know what the impact is psychologically. We know, for example, my wife and I, she's in the back of the room right now, taking some pretty photos of me. But she and I went to a conference in Switzerland last year, and we were in this experience called Birdly, and it's by a French company, Paris company, and you put your arms into the device, and you're flapping your wings, and instantly I appear above New York City, and I have all the aerodynamic kind of functions of a bird, right? If I do this, I'm soaring and stuff. Problem is I have a phobia of heights, and so I stopped breathing for I think a minute. Paralyzed, I'm like, shit, I should not have done this. My Patricia came over to me and whispered, breathe. And I was just trying to figure out how to abort this thing. I knew that I had to press 2 buttons to just stop this, but I stuck through it, and through exposure therapy, I was in a few sessions, not necessarily a daredevil, but I was doing some pretty badass moves through the New York skyscrapers. And my fear of heights, I think, has substantially reduced as a result of it. And so exposure therapy is another application that is very well tested. And in fact, it's been being used for 20 years in some clinics. Lost my train of thought there. But it affects you on multiple levels. It has an impact that is very certainly therapeutic, and it is exactly the type of technology advancement that will finally allow brain training to do its thing and work. Now, that's what we've released as of last month. We released a VR app called Enhance. It offers a library, a growing library. We have 3 games initially, of games that are designed to be fun and intense, but short. I don't believe in long form. Oh, I remember. Yes, research on children doing it. No one under 7, do not do it. Under 13, but there's no safety research. Anyways, back to this slide, it's games that are designed to test different functions, right? So we have one game, memory wall for memory functions. One game, spatial audio awareness. Find that missing bot based on noise, Get your spider senses flowing. That's the kind of games we're trying to design. One other game is called React, and it's sorting based on different colors and objects and object types, you know. So what are we testing? We're testing motor skills, we're testing memory, flexibility, task switching, all of these things. Typically, any VR game will obviously always test motor skills to some degree, again, because it's physically oriented. Now let's see. Oh, this is a video that maybe we have to press play on. So it's one of our cognitive scientists named Bernard playing and modeling for this game. We got some kickback from some people saying this looks like another Silicon Valley privileged white dude, you know, video. Why don't you, you know, you get criticized for everything. Even though it is an elderly-oriented application, the research shows the earlier you do cognitive training, the longer the impact is over time. So you should be, you know, based on neuroscience research, you should be doing it as early. And so that is React, for example. He should have a smile on his face. It's more fun than that. And aside from that, I think this is the game hide and seek. You have to use based on spatial audio awareness and figure out where that robot is. And I was so horrible at this game. In fact, I'm the worst player of my team. I have some kind of problem where I don't use my left hand as well. But you know, the point is not just playing a game, but playing these games, a random number of them, not the same ones, not necessarily once a week or twice, you know, a week, or you know, whatever the frequency is. You want to track your progress over time. And beyond that, we've released, we're the first to release a data dashboard as well that allows organizations to manage and monitor and manage the cognitive performance of their users over time. So we're really trying to push that in something senior living communities or hospitals or schools or universities or even organizations. We had an organization, MasterCard, approach us because they're buying hundreds of devices and they want to use it for human performance programs and stuff, hopefully in a non-evil way. So we're also the first to implement and incorporate auditory science into the VR experiences. And so I'm not sure, does anyone know about phase locking based on music that is, binaural beats was an early version of this stuff? No one knows? Oh, you guys are missing out. Like, to use music and to create rhythmic audio that actually has an effect of what we call phase locking, and I forget the general, I think it's called general attending theory. This is very mature tech. This works. You have music in the background and you almost don't even notice it, and it has, it's scientifically validated to increase your focus levels during the session. Whether that has a long-term cognitive effect, I do not know, but for us it's fantastic to be able to, in that 10-minute session that we want you to play these games, we want you to have, you know, the most focused levels that you could, right? And what's cooler than being able to put in something in the background that can cause and trigger that, perhaps. Maybe even if we say it by maybe a placebo effect, it doesn't matter, but you know, we want them really hyper-focused. And the admin panel I mentioned, the thing about this admin panel is that we want to primarily make it our business model this way, so that we don't have to charge for the users, make it just accessible to anyone, just to have it for free. That's my kind of mission for how to balance the scales of this capitalism-based venture that wants to do social good, and it's sometimes a very tricky thing. But the coolest thing that we're working on, I think the core vision of what we're really, really after is that Here's an example. Deutsche Telekom sponsored this game called Sea Hero Quest. It's a game that tests spatial audio navigation. It had like 3-4 million players over time, a mobile version and a VR version, and they found that the VR version, 2 minutes of VR gameplay generated over 5 hours worth of lab research for Alzheimer's research. I mean, talk about exponential. Again, that is nuts, and we don't even know what the hell is in this data. You know, it's just lab research data, it's not insights or anything. Once you put in machine learning into the mix, though, and you put pattern recognition at a very high level, once you start bringing VR and what it's doing and combining it with other emerging technologies like AI, like 5G, to even speed things up like edge computing, one of the things we want to do is be able to mine gameplay pattern over time. And so when you mine gameplay patterns over time in terms of the big data of this, you can start to, ideally, and our hypothesis is you'll start to see patterns, certain patterns. For example, if we see 7 or 100 or whatever incidences of someone starting to have an early onset of dementia, that's a pattern that can ideally be served for predictive analytics. And so if you're playing regularly and the system is able to see that there's a certain new shift in your behavior and it matches a certain pattern, and we've validated that pattern according to a certain condition like dementia, then you're creating effectively a new digital health marker, or biomarker as they call it, where it's based on gameplay and game patterns. I mean, that is the most exciting stuff, but I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, obviously. So who are we? You know, we were spending the year developing biometric algorithms. We needed money, so we decided to go towards a situation where we can do good, but have investors come in, because we can't, you know, pay our salaries and stuff just doing R&D all day. But we're a mix of cognitive scientists, neuroscientists, hopefully a neuropsychologist soon, but with game developers. And what they do is they collaborate to work together, and they always are prioritizing the science, of course. But to some degree, you don't want the games to be that addictive or that fun. And the biggest thing about us is we really don't want this kind of technology to be something that you're like, oh, a leaderboard, or you're comparing yourself with other people. As you know, I'm really bad with spatial orientation. I'm really bad with spatial audio game, but I'm getting better. My wife, she's really good at those things. I might be really good at word memory, you know, but I'm not really good with like knowing what the hell true north is, or where I even am in a new city, you know. We want to make people more wholesome. That's the main thing, you know, and I think that's the real target behind how we're developing our graphs, our reporting, and I think it's going to be one of the things that allows us to kind of stick to the plan and really do some social impact, positive things, not just for the elderly, but for society at large. That's just my email if anyone has any questions, or I got tons of research papers and stuff to talk about the pain management stuff. Every week there is literally a study coming out, either from Taiwan or Canada. It's everywhere. This is like no joke. VR is going to have a phenomenal year next year. If you're a developer and you're thinking this is not going to stick, you're completely wrong. So enjoy the ride. Thank you.